Hi dear ones. I'm just gonna lower my camera slightly. There we go. My name is Sarah Lustig and I am a spiritual guide and a soul harmony coach, a spiritual activator, which means that I help women tap into their innate power, into their innate magic, embody their authentic, unique, vibrant vibration and frequency so that they can shine their radiant hearts out into the world and feel confident doing so, feel really fulfilled and in touch with themselves and really connected to the people around them, really at centered and at peace. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about understanding karma and the role that karma plays in our lives, and understanding really like the purpose of karma on earth and our purpose in how we work with karma, as well as balancing karma and clearing karma and kind of the differences between those two. So before we begin, I want to just say that karma is a huge topic, and we could spend hours and hours and hours deep diving into karma, into the nuances of karma. And so today isn't going to be quite a deep dive. It's going to be a little bit more general, talking about karma and how this role shows up how this shows up in our lives through different roles and different patterns that play out for us. And I'm going to talk a little bit about, some of the broader implications or understandings of karma, including kind of family karma and how we work with ancestral karma and kind of our lineage and how that plays into our own individual karma and things like that, because there are people on the planet right now who are here to clear not just their own karma, but also larger karma, bigger than themselves. So there's a lot to talk about with karma. But the big takeaway I really want you to have when you leave this, or after you watch this, is to understand that karma is not punishment. No part of karma is about punishment. You're not here to be punished. You're not here to suffer. You're not here to live in pain for the rest of your lives and to be weighed down. Understanding that Earth is a school. It's a type of school. And many, 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 many souls come to Earth because the learning that can take place on Earth is really unlike anywhere else in the world, anywhere else in the universe, anywhere else in the solar system, right? And so souls come to Earth for specific reasons: to grow, to evolve, to expand for themselves, to help other people along their journeys, and to gain certain understandings, to gain certain awareness, to gain certain experience, to learn through those experiences. And so understanding that there really is never any failure. There's no such thing as failure. Our souls are infinite. They continue to reincarnate as is right for our own unique soul path. There are souls that are older than other souls. And so understanding that, there's different age ranges of souls and there's no hierarchy here. All of us are seen as completely equal across, the universe, and what, learnings we're here to do and understand in each moment. And so in each lifetime, we come into these bodies in order to understand certain experiences, to heal or release certain experiences, and to expand into new experiences as a soul. And so understanding karma is really about understanding each person's own unique soul journey and what their soul came to do in this lifetime and what they came to heal in this lifetime, or what they came to work through, both at an individual level, at a family level, and then also at a collective level. There are also people who are kind of working on those stages as well. Not everybody is, but everybody's impacted by the collective, and the collective karma is impacting all of us on an individual level too. So understanding that. And so a soul will come to Earth to learn certain lessons, to have certain experiences. And so let's say a soul comes to Earth to understand what it means to live without financial prosperity. And so that soul might come to Earth to have a kind of impoverished life, to be poor, to understand what it means, what it feels like in society to be without wealth and abundance that is financial, right? And so before we're even born, our souls have meetings with our team, our cosmic team, and different guides and ascended masters and different people who watch over us. And we decide what we want to work on and what we want to work through and what we want to kind of target in each life. And so we'll come, let's say this is what this person wants to work on. They want to have this experience. And so from there, they would go through life understanding what it's like to not have financial wealth, understanding what it means to struggle in this way. But let's say that struggle creates a really strong and solid bond with the people in their community. Because they struggled with finances, it also meant that they had to rely on their neighbors a little bit more. It also meant that they had to humble themselves in order to be able to ask for help. And in doing so, they formed relationships with the people around them. And those became really meaningful relationships in their lives. And it added such richness to that person's life because they were able to kind of embrace and understand this lesson of being without and being impoverished in this way. In order to understand like balancing versus clearing karma, if we are trying to balance the karma of that experience, we would then, after that life is over, have another meeting with our guides, talk about what it was like to be financially impoverished. Sorry, my printer's trying to reset all of a sudden. But we would have a conversation with our guides, and we would talk about what it was like to be impoverished in this way in this life, and what strengths did that give us, what were the challenges of that life, what were the different things that we really struggled with because we were financially poor. And then we might decide that we want to balance that by having the opposite experience, right? And so the opposite experience of that might be to be very financially rich, but then like that other life where the relationships were really rich, there's a potential then that we might have the opposite experience in other forms too. So let's say your soul then decided to come back and have this experience of financial prosperity and financial wealth and financial abundance, which allowed for, professional success and for you to grow a name for yourself in the world. So you get to experience what that is like and what are the challenges that come with that, right? If you grow your name in the world, what are some of the challenges that might come with fame? What are some of the challenges that might come with lots of people knowing who you are, right? And so maybe one of those challenges is that your relationships suffer, that your partner in that life feels that you're not around as much because you're traveling or you're doing other things because you are somebody who's well known in the world, because you have this successful professional life and, financial security. But your partner feels really abandoned and they feel really lonely. And so that creates a challenge for you in your life, right? So let's say you have relationship challenges where then people also come to you needing money often or needing favors from you. And it seems like people don't really come to you because they want to have a relationship with you, but they come to you because you have money and how you can help them. And so then this starts to become a pattern in your life where people use you in a way for your money and for how you can give to them in this way, but then you also don't feel reciprocated, that you don't feel that people show up for you when you need them to, or you don't feel that people have your back. And so in that first life, you really had people in your community who came through for you and who really showed up for you. And so to understand the balance of what it might feel like to not have that community in this life and what it might feel like to have to kind of do it alone and to build your own success and to lean on yourself, and how, sometimes that's a wonderful thing and it creates these different, strengths within us, and it helps us build resilience in different ways, and it helps us push ourselves further than if we maybe had support and we took that support for granted. And so looking at how these different patterns might show up and understanding the patterns that are showing up in your own life. Do you have a hard time abandoning yourself and always showing up for other people, or always prioritizing other people's needs above your own needs? Do you have a hard time speaking up for yourself in your life? Do you have a hard time, saying what it is that you need, letting people know how you feel, letting somebody know if they've crossed your boundary or if they've, hurt you in some way? So being aware, what patterns are showing up in your life. Do you have a fear of, putting yourself out there and really taking risks to go after your dreams and believe in yourself? Do you really beat yourself up or, self-criticize yourself and expect yourself to be perfect all the time? And so looking at what are these patterns that show up in your life and how might they be related to patterns that have maybe been a part of other previous lives. And so balancing karma in those lives was kind of about having the full experience. So now you've had one experience in which you had really wealthy relationships and you had an abundance of love and trust and support in those relationships, but you were really financially poor. And now you've balanced it by having this understanding of what is it like to be financially successful and to be professionally successful and to be famous and to have my name out there in this way. But how did that also impact my relationships, right? And so understanding these two more than two, but really, if we simplify it to these two experiences, right? As a soul, you would then look at those and try to figure out how can we have balance and how can we maybe clear or heal some of these patterns that have been showing up. And so you might have another life where you decide you're going to try to find balance between those two. And maybe you don't make tons and tons of money and you're not really financially wealthy, but you have enough success in your life and you really have a meaningful career and it gives you a lot of value. And you also have the love of your family and those relationships aren't neglected and they're really supportive for you and they're really reciprocal of you. And so that's when you're showing up in a really healed expression and you're able to work through some of the challenges and patterns of that life to be able to then clear any karmic imprints that took place. And so karma is really about balance and having balanced experiences in order to understand from a more, widely experienced, widely integrated point of view, right? If we can understand what it feels like to be like this and like this and like this and like this and have all of these different experiences, then the soul understands ultimately the universal truths so much more deeply because it's lived through those experiences. It's understood them in an embodied way, right? Like a real felt sense that lives in the body of those experiences, right? And so clearing karma is about where we get stuck in our lives. It's about where when we pass, our soul has kind of that unfinished business, if you will. That's where that comes from, right? It's like, where are the things that we didn't come to peace with? Where are the things that we still struggle with, that we have regrets about, or we, carry a lot of shame? Like shame is one of those really big things. The things that we carry shame in our lives are the things that we always carry to our next incarnations in order to clear, in order to release those things. So looking at the things that you currently carry shame about in your life, because that is going to give you a lot of information about what needs to be cleared in your karma. What are the things that you feel ashamed about? What are the places that you don't want anybody else to know about? That the things that you've done in this life that you don't want other people to know about. And it's not that you have to share those things with other people. It might be that you want to find somebody who's trustworthy to be able to share that with, but it might also be that it's an internal process, that you can find forgiveness for yourself, that you can find release and, ease and grace for yourself who experienced those things, who did those things, who said those things, whatever it might be. But looking at the places in your life where you carry shame and the constant reoccurring patterns that create a lot of distress for you, or the patterns that create a lot of dysfunction in your life, the patterns that create dis-ease, right? Whether that's physical disease, right? Like inflammatory kind of things, long-standing health problems that you've had. Those are sometimes karmic imprints that we carry from previous lives. I know myself, I've been healing one for the last 2 years. It's a throat wound that I have carried in many, 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 many lifetimes. And it really comes down to this witch wound of of being killed for standing in my medicine and my magic, and being killed and accused of being a witch when I was just trying to help people and I was a healer in my community, and so many lives in which I became afraid of speaking up and afraid of sharing my gifts and afraid of helping other people with the medicine that I had because I was afraid of persecution. And so this has created an actual like physical challenge for me in my throat, because it's coming up for me to heal in this life and to say, okay, no more. I'm clearing this pattern. It's not going to hold me back anymore. It's not going to show up in any, future incarnations. And understanding that when we're talking about the soul's journey too, it's a little bit trippy, but when we're talking about the soul's journey, time does not exist. Time is only a human construct. It's part of those human lessons that we come here to be able to understand. Time is really helpful for those human lessons. But for our soul, time does not exist. Our soul is infinite. It always existed. It always has existed for always and forever. And so even just knowing that can give us a lot of relaxation and rest, and to know that you don't have to rush through this life having every single possible experience, that your soul has plenty of time to have all of those experiences. Your soul has plenty of time to feel all of these different experiences. And so let's explore a different kind of example. Let's say in one life you had a child who required a great deal of caretaking. Maybe this child had a physical disability, like they were born without use of their legs, and so they couldn't walk properly. So it might have meant that you had to give a great deal of your time and energy into taking care of this child, and it required special things. And so that's not a bad thing. Your soul decided to do that ahead of time. It said, yeah, I want to understand what it's like to be this caretaker, to be in this role of caretaking so deeply for another person. I want to understand that experience. And so you would come to Earth to have that experience, and you would caretake your child, and depending on how that went in your own life and your own, kind of mindset and your personality and how things, you decide some of that, but then also life decides some of that. But depending on how things went, you might, grow a deep love for caretaking your child, and you might see it as like it's an honor, and it is something that you see as like your duty in life and as your mission to take care of this child, and you dote on them and you love them and you give everything that you can to make sure that they're comfortable and happy. That's one way that can go. Another way that can go is that you might build resentment. You might feel like, man, why did this happen to me? Why did I have to go through this really hard experience? Why did I have to always feel like I have to take care of this person in my life, and I can't go off and travel, and I can't go off and explore these other things that I'm being called to do, right? Like my heart wants to do, that I see other people around me being able to do, right? And so it might create this sense of resentment or this sense of anger at your child. And if that continues, it might create a real wound in your soul, right? You might then also start to feel really guilty for feeling that way. You might feel really ashamed for feeling that way and feeling like you're a terrible mother for not wanting to do more for your child, even though you feel like you need somebody to take care of you too, right? And so to recognize, like, we can understand why that soul would feel that way, and we can have compassion for why that soul would feel that way, and why they might feel like this is a burden, and why it might feel like it's too much, if they weren't aware of their own soul journey, and that this was something that they chose and something that they took on in when they were a soul, right? But also a soul can't account for all of the different things that are going to happen when we enter the human body. There's a lot of, unpredictability in that, because we also have free will, that we can decide to totally ignore what our soul decided and what our soul agreed upon, and we can go completely our own way. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? That's the power that we have, which is really actually a lot of power that Source gives us, right? Whether you want to call it God, the universe, Source, it's all ultimately the same thing, right? The creator, right? The creator of the universe, the creator of each of us, right? And so understanding that however you express who you are is perfect, is exactly how the Creator wants you to be expressing who you are. Understanding too that every single person is a mirror of the Creator. Every single person is a mirror of you. And so we also want to treat each other the way we want to be treated as souls, as humans, with love, with compassion, right? Not harming each other, but having understanding for each other's sovereignty and each other's choices, and knowing that our souls came with a unique path and a unique journey. And so coming back to this, caretaking role, if you develop this resentment as a soul for caretaking, after you pass away, that is going to be work that your soul is going to have to do. It's not a bad thing. We all have stuff that we carry with us into our next, into our afterlives, right? And, we go to another sort of classroom to kind of review and reflect on our lives on Earth in this incarnation. We look at what went well, what were some of the challenges that we faced, where were the times that we maybe went off course, how did it go, did it work out for us, did it maybe create some challenges, but eventually we got back on course, right? So we kind of have a review of our lives with our guides. It's not a punishment. It's not like, oh, here's where you messed up, where you did bad. No, it's not. Everyone on your team holds you in such love. To make the choice to come to Earth and to have these experiences is like, especially in this incarnation right now, I'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment, but, especially in this incarnation, your guides have so much love for you. They have so much, just awe for you every single day. They are so proud of you. They are just like, they think you're doing great. They're like your cheerleaders on the other side, just like constantly cheering you on and constantly like trying to send you signs to let you know that you're on the right track and that you're going in the right direction. They just want you to trust them. Sorry, my nose is a little stuffed up. But coming, back to this soul work that this soul might have to do if they develop this resentment, right? In order to balance this experience, a person might come back and then be the one who was caretaken, and they might then understand what that was like. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. But first, that soul is going to reflect back on like, where did this resentment grow? And what were the reasons that resentment grew? Where did I maybe need more support? Where did I maybe not, reach out for support enough? Like maybe I needed somebody to kind of step in and help me out a little bit more. And that's not something that I allowed myself to ask for. I felt unworthy of, right? Or maybe I didn't set enough boundaries in other areas of my life. And so that was the challenge, that I didn't speak up enough about what my boundaries were and what I needed. And I wasn't mindful enough about my own self-care, right? And so that soul might do some reflecting and soul searching, right, if you will, about what were the challenges that created that resentment and created that what will be karmic clearing now. Sometimes we can do that karmic clearing, in that soul life, but generally we're going to have the opportunity to work through it again in our human lives and to see it show up again and to show ourselves that we can overcome this pattern. And so in the next life, we might be put in a similar position, not quite the same, or maybe not quite the same degree as the previous life, because we can already see that that life overwhelmed us. But we might be put in a similar position to see, can we now show up with a little bit more love? Can we now show up and be able to speak up about our boundaries and be able to practice more self-care and be able to take care of ourselves and also take care of another in a balanced, harmonious way, right? So that could be a way that we clear the karma, okay? We can also choose to clear the karma by having the opposite kind of in an extreme way, that we can go in and be caretaken, right? So we can go in and have our own physical disability. You might choose, in order to clear the karma, to go in kind of an extreme way. And that's your choice as a soul, understanding that we always make this choice as a soul, okay? And so you might come in and decide that you might be, both deaf and blind in a life, and you really have to rely heavily on the people around you to help support you, to help navigate the world, especially in your early forming years of your life, to be able to safely navigate the world. And so that those early years of dependence on another person might help your soul understand, like, wow, this is what the experience was like for that person I was taking care of in my previous life. This is what it was like for them to be helpless and for them to need me. And now I can understand why it was such a sacred role to take care of that person, to love and show up for that person, to make them as safe and comfortable as possible in the world. And so if in your life, in this position of being blind and deaf, somebody takes care of you that way, and they really show up for you, and they are patient with you, and they don't mind taking their time, and they don't mind showing you or helping you learn how to do something again and again and again, so that you feel really safe and you feel empowered to be able to start taking on a little bit more responsibility. That can heal that soul's karma around that caretaking life and around where they carried that shame of not being able to do for another. That when we can receive what we were not able to give, that can be really, really healing for us as a soul. And so it's not always that we'll have to be in the same position, like we might not have to come back again as a caretaker, but we can come back as kind of that opposite role and allow ourselves to be taken care of in order to clear the karma of that life. And so balance is about our soul having kind of an opposite experience of one, life to another, versus clearing is about the things that we get caught on as a soul, the areas that we develop regret or that we carry that shame, that we hold on to, and it becomes kind of a, what's the word? I'm like a crust around our heart, or like a shield around our heart, that we keep others away, and we keep it so that it keeps us disconnected from ourselves, or keeps us disconnected from other people. And so understanding that every single person alive has their own unique soul journey. Their soul has decided on certain factors and certain things they want to play out, certain patterns, certain lessons they want to be able to overcome or learn, clear, release, right? And so to make sure that we're not judging. We're never judging another soul. We're never judging their path. We're never judging their choices. We have to respect and understand that each person is entitled to their own choices. They're entitled to their own life, to what they want to do in their life, to the passions they want to follow in their life, the desires they want to follow, the dreams they want to invest in, or the dreams of other people they want to invest in, and whether they want to give up on their own dreams, and whether they want to put other people's needs above themselves, and to the degree that they want to do that is detrimental to their soul path, or that is, taking them off their soul path, right? We can never know. We can never say like, oh, well, you should always play the caretaker role because it's always the right thing to take care of somebody. Or it's, oh no, you should always choose to take care of yourself and you should find somebody else to take care of that person, right? Like we can never make that choice because it's that soul for them to decide what they need to do in this life, what, is their work to figure out, and what are their patterns to overcome, or what is their karma to clear. And so again, understanding that karma is not a punishment. It is about our soul having balanced experiences. Understanding that the Creator is always living through our experiences, and our experiences are sending back information to the Creator. It's sending back wisdom of what is this experience like, and if this happens, and what happens as a result of that, and what are kind of the domino effects of that. And so, Source loves experimenting and trying new things and taking chances, and the universe really loves souls who really bet on themselves and who are willing to show up for themselves, and who are willing to go through those fires of transformation and really, do the work that their soul came here to do. And so, no judgment if you're not doing that. And if you decide you want to go off on another path, like, you absolutely have the free will to decide to do that and to do what you want to do. And to, this, like, Earth really is your oyster, right? You have the freedom to do whatever you want while you are on Earth. It is like you get to be the main act who decides how you want it to go, right? Which is really hard for us because we are so used to giving our power away to some other thing and thinking like they are the puppet masters and we are just kind of like being controlled. But really, it's us. It's our soul, right? And so while our soul, yes, is embodied in our human self, and our body is the temple and the holder of our soul is also still above and is still in the divine realms and is still, watching over us. And so both connected, like our soul lives within us and our soul also lives above us in the divine realms and is always guiding us and watching us and navigating, that soul path. And so if you are looking to align in, with your particular karma of this life, with, expanding your karma or clearing your karma, you want to be able to align with your soul and you want to be able to connect with your soul path. And that is going to help you, connect with your true essence, with your most empowered self, with your most passionate self, with your most, you self, your unique divine frequency, the you that you came here to be in this life. And so connecting with your soul. And this is a good way to do this, is just kind of, focusing on the chakra that's just about a foot above your head, about 12 inches above your head. And that's where you can start to kind of tap into that soul cosmic part of you to be able to then drop that down into the heart and anchor that part of you into your heart, bringing that part of you embodied into the ground. So bringing those divine realms in to be able to sit with this question of your karma and what patterns are you here to heal, to release, to break free from, right? And so earlier in this discussion, I had talked a little bit about our individual karma versus kind of family and collective karma. And so I want to come back to that now and understand that we all have our own individual karma that we came here to clear, work through, or understand, expand, release, move beyond. And then we also have familial or ancestral karma. And so our ancestors, they had their own experiences, they had their own traumas, they had their own hardships, and those get passed down to us, get passed down through our lineage, get passed down through our behaviors, through the stories that we hear, through the beliefs that we have, beliefs about money, beliefs about family, beliefs about loyalty, who you should be loyal to, beliefs about, what you need, how much you need, right? All of these different things. This can really be based on our family's karma too, and our familial beliefs, and can sometimes have nothing to do with our own individual, unique, truths and essence, right? And so many souls in this lifetime are actually, in family lineages that aren't actually theirs. So we all have our soul families. We all have, certain souls that we see in lives over and over again. But some people are here to clear other people's lineages. And so let's say there was a lineage that, had a lot of wounding, had a lot of trauma. And the souls in that lineage, as much as they might have tried, they just could not clear it all. They could not take it all on. And so a soul that is more experienced, that has had more lives, an older soul, if you will decide to come in, and they're going to say, okay, I've got some karma from some other lives that I'm going to clear. I've got some other things that I want to do, and I want to be able to expand my soul. I want to be able to grow and evolve even more. And so I'm going to take on this more complicated and challenging case, if you will. And so those souls will come in to clear that particular family's karma. Sometimes they succeed. Hopefully, that's the goal, right? And sometimes they don't, because it's so intense, right? That lineage carried a tremendous amount of pain, a tremendous amount of suffering. War karma. This is typically like bigger events like war. It might have been somebody who was through the Holocaust and the pain that they endured and living through that, and how that then got translated through their family. Maybe they weren't able to come out of that with resilience, but it really destroyed them inside, and they became an alcoholic, they became abusive. And I'm not saying that's the path people go, and many, many people showed up with so much incredible resilience. But if that happened, the pain and the trauma that got passed down through that, right? A older soul might come through in this lifetime to be able to clear that, and to be able to, bring light back to that lineage, to restore that lineage throughout its history back to love, to be able to restore what is kind of this, dense karma that's been kind of encrusted around its heart, its forgiveness, its love, these elements that are connected to the divine, right? And so the soul would come in and choose to clear that, to kind of break this crust free from this lineage, and be able to then root it back into love, in forgiveness and compassion, right? And so there are souls who have chosen to do that in this incarnation. There are souls who are also doing that on a collective level, myself included, where we're understanding the collective karma that is showing up, and we are here to help break ourselves free and break society free, break humanity free from this collective karma that has been building up for a long time. And I mentioned war karma in particular because war karma is some of the most dark, dense, troubling energetically karma, if you will, because it is so much violence. There is so much pain and wounding that gets passed on with war that, men, and I'm talking about men because historically men have gone to war. So not that women have not fought in wars too many, many times, but just for ease of this conversation, men going to war, and in particular because of the patriarchy, we don't have healthy expressions for men and their emotions and their experiences. And so we've seen a lot of PTSD throughout history because we don't have healthy ways for men to cope with these experiences. And so they cope in ways that are unhealthy, whether it's through drinking, whether it's through sexual deviancy, and while they're abroad, being able to to take advantage of the women that they're in these countries, right? So we see all of this that gets created in the karma of war, of sexual trauma and rape, and women who because of that have children from soldiers, who then soldiers go home, and then these women have to raise children by themselves, and then the karma that gets created from that. And so you can see how this travels through generations, and how pain and karma shows up through generations, and how different people are here to clear different parts. And so the karma of war in particular is still very much on the earth right now, is still very heavy and dense on the earth, and we're still seeing that show up, even though in many ways we've also collectively surpassed consciously this karma of war. As you can see, younger generations, they don't understand, they cannot understand, and younger generations are speaking up and fighting out much more verbally about what's going on in different, essentially war zones, whether it's in Ukraine and Russia right now, or whether it's in Iran, in the situation with protesters and women being able to, show themselves and not have such strict rules about how they are able to show up in public, right? Or the things that they're able to do as women in public. And so we're seeing much more young people who have more of this awakened consciousness, this more divine consciousness, Christ consciousness, is what we kind of refer to it as, is understanding that we are here to embody love, we're here to embody joy, we are here to respect each person's soul journey, and to not point fingers, and to not judge, and to not place ourselves or anybody above us or on a hierarchy, but to come into harmony with not just ourselves, but each other too. To recognize that our soul journey is an individual one, absolutely, but it's also a community one. That every single person that we see in this lifetime is meant to be a teacher for us in this lifetime. Every single person we come across in this lifetime has some wisdom to offer us, some golden nugget to be able to reflect on within our own lives, and to be able for you to look at who are the people who have been really, quintessential in your life, that have been models in your life for how you want to be, for who you want to show up as in the world. And likewise, who are the people who have taught you how you don't want to be in the world, who you don't want to be like, how you don't want to act, how you don't want to communicate, how you don't want to show up or express yourself, right? Those are equally important teachings. And so to look at your own soul's journey, and to look at how your own soul's journey also fits in with the people around you. Often the people around us are here to show us some balance, or are here to awaken some part of us. I'm an Aquarius, so I'm here to help awaken people. I'm here to help show people their the possibilities that exist within them that they cannot even see yet. That's part of my role, is I see those things within others that they are not capable of seeing yet, until I reflect back to them. I'm like, hey, do you know you have this really cool quality? Do you not see that this is something that you carry, right? Like, so it takes me being able to kind of catch that sometimes, because we don't always see like the brilliance of who we are. It's like it comes so natural to us sometimes. And so it's part of my role as an Aquarius, is being that activator, being that awakener for others, to be able to reflect back their own brilliance, their own unique medicine, their own soul's gifts, right? And so to also understand that, when we come to Earth, part of the agreement that we make is to forget. We don't remember all of our lives, all of our previous lives, and there's a reason for that. If we remembered all of those lives, it would be very overwhelming for us. It would be very hard to navigate the things that we need to work on in this life, and the lessons, the teachings from this life. We would get very distracted by other things. And so don't feel like you are meant to understand necessarily your past lives exactly, but you can look at the karma that is showing up in your life now, and you can understand that your life is not a punishment, and nothing in your life is meant to be punishment. Everything is meant to be soul learning. Everything is meant to be an expansion, and for you to understand more depth, or with more nuance, some topics, some areas, some relationship pattern, right? And so understanding none of it is punishment, and you're not necessarily going to remember all of your past lives. If you start to get quiet, and you start to tap in, and you start to, like I said, anchor that soul self into your heart and communicating with that soul self, then you can start to talk to that soul self and asking them, help me clear the karma that I need to in this life. Help me be aware of the things that I need to be clearing, so that I can move beyond the things that have kept me stuck. The things that we clear are the things that are the blocks for us, are the things that are the obstacles, the hurdles to our true essence, to the true expression of who our soul came here to be, okay? And so understanding that we have to clear and remove the blocks before we can let our true self really shine and really embody our full radiance, okay? So not beating yourself up if you haven't done that yet or anything like that. Like, this is something that you'll come across this message exactly when you're meant to come across this message, and you'll do this work exactly when you're meant to do this work, and not a moment before. And so knowing that when you find this message, it might be that your soul is calling you to start looking at some of your karmic patterns, and also recognizing where you maybe need to disconnect from ancestral patterns or ancestral clearing, and recognizing where you maybe are taking on too much for your ancestors. I know that was something that I had to do in my own life, where I had ancestors coming through who were wanting me, hey, can you do this for me? Hey, can you clear this for me? Hey, you said you were going to do this. Hey, you're capable of doing this, right? And so sometimes our ancestors can do that, and they'll come through, which is why it is so important to also be setting boundaries, not just with the people in our lives, but our higher source, community that comes to work with us as well. And so, and being aware and being discerning about that, that's a whole other topic and discussion. But to be mindful about, how your ancestors come through and how you're working with your ancestors, and making sure that you're always doing these things in a way that is empowering to you, in a way that is helping to uplift you, expand you, support you, and being mindful if these things are draining you, depleting you, leaving you feeling empty, leaving you feeling, discombobulated or chaotic or all over the place, right? Those are signs that you are giving your energy away, or that your energy is being kind of siphoned or taken away from you. So being mindful about the energies that you work with, and being aware if you identify with being a light worker and a shadow worker, that yes, you can be helping to clear the collective or your familial, your ancestry, their karma, but only when you are feeling up to it. When you are feeling depleted, when you are burnt out, when you are exhausted, you need to be filling your own cup, and you need to be taking care of yourself, because many, many light workers come with this kind of martyr imprint and this martyr archetype, this damsel in distress archetype, or the victim archetype, right? Where we give our power away to other people, or we self-abandon, we put other people's needs and priorities above ourselves. We give to a place that our bodies are exhausted and drained, and that our hearts have nothing left to give. And so we have compassion fatigue. We start developing dis-ease in the body, right? And so be aware that you are not here to clear your karma at expense of your own health, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. You are not here to clear your ancestral karma or to clear collective karma in our society at the expense of your own body, mind, heart, and soul, right? To take care of yourself, to make sure that you are doing these things from a place of fullness, from a place of wholeness, not depleted. Right? When we are depleted, it is going to be harder to see the patterns clearly, to work with the energies, ancestral or our guides, that are going to be helpful for us, that are going to be supportive and nourishing on our journey, right? To recognize, that understanding of your soul is infinite. So you don't have to rush through. You don't have to be over-giving and over-sacrificing. There are many, 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 many light workers and shadow workers on the planet right now. There are many, 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 many more waking up to their cosmic mission right now. And so understanding that there's plenty of time. You're not late to the party. However and whenever you find this message, knowing that it is perfect for you to arrive to. And that, the things that I've talked about in this live tonight are also like very big concepts, and not everybody is ready to hear them, and not everybody is ready to hear all parts of them. And so not having judgment against yourself for not being ready before this moment, or feeling like you're behind in your cosmic mission. You can never be behind. You are always right on time for everything that you are ready for. Always. You are always right on time for everything that is for your best, especially when you are practicing and working towards connecting with that part of you every single day, connecting with your soul, connecting with your cosmic self, connecting with your guides, connecting with your path, your purpose, what you came here to do. So that was a lot about karma. There's so much more that can be said about karma in larger ways. Earth is just one school that we all come to, and the agreements that we have on Earth, the different ways that we can show up. I've talked about a couple of different examples of different life patterns that we can see, and how to balance and clear those. And so I hope that's given you a better understanding of how to work with your own karma, how to balance and clear karma in your own life. If you want to learn more about how to actually balance and clear that karma, that's something that I teach the women that I work with, and that's something that I teach in Golden Temple as well, is like how to actually balance and clear that karma. What are the actual rituals and words and ceremonies that you can do to clear that karma, to free yourself from it, and actually come to more embodied places and more empowered places that express that truth of who you really are and who you came here to be, and to shine your radiant self and to show up in the world as you are meant to share your gifts, to share your heart, to share your beautiful voice, your beautiful wisdom, right? So I hope that you learned so much tonight with this live. If you have any questions about anything that I talked about in this live, feel free to send me a DM or leave a comment on this. I'll probably post it a couple days from now. So I hope you have a beautiful night. Thank you everybody who stopped by, and I will talk to you soon.